Hello. Let's make a video in English. So, what I've been doing these days? Um, last few days, I've been reading a book about Richard Branson's "Like a Virgin." That's the name of the book. The I just finished reading this book some days ago, and I actually wanted to buy another book by Richard Branson. Screw it, let's do it. I like the title of the book, but I couldn't find a copy of that book, so I bought this book, Like a Virgin. And this is one of probably the most recent book by Richard Branson. And what else? My impression of this book. Well, I don't know. I'm going to read the book again, but because one interesting fact about Richard Branson was never an employee. He never worked as an employee. And, he was his whole life. He was an entrepreneur. He was a businessman, started his own company. And in his book, he tells how to run your own company. He never talks about from the point of view of the employee. He will not say things, for example, how to be a good employee, how you as an employee can face your daily problems. He always talks about from the point of view of a businessman, of an entrepreneur that is starting or running his own company. Even about running, he doesn't personally run his own companies. He has his group, a Virgin group, but he starts a company, but then he delegates. He chooses someone else to run the company. So he never, very seldom, he has to deal with the daily operations of the company. The guy never works. He just starts the companies, and he has a very large group, so Virgin group. In fact, actually, I prefer his style. He's very different, for example, from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is more a hands-on entrepreneur. Donald Trump likes to do things himself, and he runs his company very, very tightly. He doesn't delegate much, Donald Trump. It's very opposite of Richard Branson. Richard Branson tries to delegate as much as possible. And it's very interesting because in one of his chapters, Richard Branson talks about the balance between family and career. How can you reach a balance between your career and family? And his opinion is very different, for example, from Jack Welch's. I have a book from Jack Welch's. I forgot the title. And Jack Welch is different. Jack Welch was his whole life as an employee. He never started his own company. And the point of view is very different from Richard Branson's. Richard Branson's, he usually works from his home. And, so he spends most of his time with his family. He never works at the office of his companies. He's always working from his own home. So he doesn't have a problem of balancing career and family because he's always at home. He's always with his family. Richard Branson is very. He is the kind of businessman that everybody should aim for. I think he's actually the ideal businessman, the kind of guy that works from home. He's never at the company. He doesn't. He's never there. the, but I don't know, his style is in many instances is more difficult because in the end the responsibility is still his. The responsibility of the Virgin Group is still Richard Branson's. He is the guy responsible. If anything happens inside the group, he is the one actually responsible, even though he delegates much of the work of the company to his employees. And there is this kind of weight of responsibility. The weight of responsibility, maybe, I don't know, seems to be more serious. And his style is very. He's just one step away from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, as an investor, he owns the company, but he never tries to run the company. He's a pure investor. He only cares about the finance, but he's never deals with the daily operation of the company. And Richard Branson is a compromise between a businessman like Donald Trump, that is very hands-on. He's right there at the operations. He's doing things almost himself instead of delegating things. And Warren Buffett, Richard Branson is a middle term. At one extreme we have Donald Trump, at the other extreme we have Warren Buffett, and in the middle we have Richard Branson. This style of how to operate companies. But the ideal really maybe should be Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, he never runs the company. He's never there. He's purely an investor, a pure investor. In the case of Richard Branson, he actually starts the company. He's there at the start of the company. He personally sees when the company starts, but not when the company starts operating daily. Things becomes a routine, and the company starts to stabilize, and then Richard Branson prefers to delegate everything. And this style is very different from Jack Welch or Donald Trump. I don't know if it's better or worse. In my opinion, in terms of long-term future for the companies, I think the style of Richard Branson and Warren Buffett is better than, for example, Donald Trump or even Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. In the case of Steve Jobs, we have Apple, and in my opinion, the future of Apple is not good because without Steve Jobs, Apple is still, of course, is operating as one of the biggest companies in the world, but without Steve Jobs, I don't think long term Apple doesn't have much future, unless, of course, it can find good talent. But even if Apple succeeds to find good talent, it will not be the same like Steve Jobs. So the perspectives for companies like Apple and the companies, for example, for Trump Corporation, in my opinion, because Donald Trump is active on his company, but sooner or later he is going to retire. And what will happen with Trump Corporation after he retires? Possibly there will be a downward, there will be a predictable decline, because his successors will not be as successful as Donald Trump. The company will still exist, but will not be as good, as successful as the founder, Donald Trump. It's different from Richard Branson or Warren Buffett. The companies, the Virgin Group, probably, even after Richard Branson retires, Virgin Group will probably continue, maybe for a long time, because it doesn't really actually depends on Richard Branson. The Virgin Group operates pretty much independent of Richard Branson. Without his help, the Virgin Group doesn't need actually Richard Branson to continue operating. So the Virgin Group has long-term future, has more chances of surviving long-term than companies like Apple or Trump Corporation or even Microsoft. Microsoft after Bill Gates is not the same. Everybody, I think, probably agrees that Microsoft is not the same without Bill Gates. So I think that's all from